So you know about May Collins?
Yes, I thought you had the situation under control.
Well, we did. It was just one of those unfortunate incidents. Well, what can you say?
How's Beecham?
Hasn't been hurt, being looked after. The department thought it best to go ahead with her pardon, so she won't have to come back to Wentworth. The minister will get the papers to you today. There'll be a press release explaining about the robbery and the arrest of the American. Of course, as we agreed, Willie's name won't be mentioned.
I see.
We're trying to get the whole situation cleaned up as quickly as possible.
All neatly packaged up and filed away under forgotten.
Well, hardly that, Mrs. Reynolds.
No. I've lost women before. Heroin addicts, prison riots, murders. No matter how many times it happens, you always feel shocked. Guilty in some way. Responsible. I think you're being
You're trying to sweep it all under the carpet, aren't you? You and the police. You had it all planned between you, didn't you? And it didn't quite work out. I didn't get killed.
Oh, control
You can't keep me here. I'm not a prisoner anymore, and I want to leave.
Take her out, please.
Governor wishes to speak to you. Just pay attention, will you?
A couple of weeks ago, the police approached May Collins and Willie Beecham and offered them freedom in exchange for their help. I'm not at liberty to go into details, but today Willie is a free woman. May, unfortunately, didn't survive the...
Quiet, ladies! How did she die?
She was shot.
Shot! Who done it? Who shot her?
I can't tell you at this point.
Well, then whose fault is it?
It was no one's fault.
Oh, sure. It never is anyone's fault.
I'm as upset about this as you are.
Just be quiet and listen to the governor. What happened, Mrs. Reynolds?
I can't do that.
Oh, it's a bloody whitewash. Maybe they didn't have a chance at all. Maybe you sent them out to get killed.
That's ridiculous.
Kill her! Kill her!
I don't know what this place is turning into. I really don't. It's just one thing after another, and frankly, I have had enough.
I'll be taking steps to see it doesn't happen again.
Do you have the faintest idea how all this is going to reflect on me when I have to stand up and start answering questions in the House?
You'll just have to say that I've accepted full responsibility. May Collins was aware of the risk and took the decision on her own behalf. As far as what happened last night's concerned, security will be tightened, and as for Flynn's disappearance, we'll just have to hope we find her. I understand the police have Willie Beecham under surveillance in case she tries to contact her.
Yes, well, you'll excuse me if I don't find any of that very reassuring. Obviously, a major change in administrative policy is called for. Now, I'm putting this to you officially. You get this place back on the rails fast, or else...
Or else what?
Or else I may have to reconsider whether you are in fact competent to hold the governorship here. I don't care what you do or how you do it, but I want the lid on this place. I want it kept out of the papers and out of the public eye. I can't see that it should be all that difficult.
As you know, I had the minister here this morning. He's far from impressed by our recent performance. I have to take responsibility for that, and each one of you has to share it.
Nothing to do with me.
It has to do with everyone who works in this prison. All right, maybe there was some small excuse for what happened last night. It was the last thing anyone could have expected. But where was everyone when Joyce Barry was being attacked? Where were we when Nora Flynn decided to escape? There is simply no excuse for such things to happen. I'm sorry, I don't mean to imply that any single person is responsible. What I am trying to say is that, as a group, collectively, we sometimes tend to lose sight of the tremendous responsibility we have here, and we quite simply cannot afford to do that.
Well, for what it's worth, I happen to agree with the governor. Well, just look at the way Beecham and Collins were allowed to escape. Now, Collins is dead. Not that that's any great loss as far as I'm concerned, but the public might see it as a reflection on the department, and therefore on us. Is that the sort of thing you meant, Governor?
I think I made it quite clear what I meant. I'll be putting out a memo for security to be tightened in all areas. Please read it. That's all. Thank you for your time.
I don't know. Must be getting old. Just don't seem to be able to cope with things the way I used to. Come on. It's got to the point, Meg, where every time someone says my name, I jump. This business with Eve Wilder and David, Joyce, May Collins, and now Nora Flynn. It's just one disaster after another. And all I can think of is what's going to come next. We've been through rough patches before. It'll blow over. Maybe. We just don't seem to get anywhere, though, do we? You bend over backwards trying to be fair to the women, then all it takes is one thing like this for them all to turn against you. Makes you wonder whether Joan Ferguson's got the right idea.
Oh, dear. As bad as that, is it?
No, not really. I am starting to feel it's one step forward and 3 steps back.
You've had far more difficult times than this at Wentworth.
Yes, but in the past, our big problems have been caused by something outside. Bureaucratic stupidity from the department, or problems with the staff. Joan, for instance. But I've always had the support of the women. That's what made me stay. The fact that they needed my help.
Well, they still do.
Oh, they made it pretty clear today that they hate me. And blame me for May Collins' death.
You weren't responsible. They'll understand that sooner or later.
Add to that the minister breathing down my neck. Now, maybe he's right. Perhaps Wentworth does need a new
now,
governor.
wait a minute.
No, seriously, Meg. I have to think very clearly now about where I stand. Pippa and Ben have gone. Paul can look after himself. And perhaps I've outlived my usefulness at Wentworth.
Nonsense.
It isn't, Meg. If I don't have an understanding with the women, it's a negative exercise. It's as simple as that. I want you to be the first person to know. I'm
Yes.
going to give my resignation to the minister first thing in the morning.
Boy, that's a piece of luck, seeing somebody I know.
What happened?
My bike. I could fix it, but I haven't got the right tools. Are you all right?
Fine. What do you want me to do?
A lift to the nearest garage would be fine. Are you sure you're all right?
I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry. I'll get someone to come back for you.
Oh, Mrs. Reynolds. Good of you to call. I hope we didn't embarrass you.
Of course not. I've learned not to let little things upset me. Now, why don't you make Roach and I a cup of tea so we can have our chat? The one you asked me over for. I hope I haven't come at an inconvenient time. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stare. It's just that, it's not quite what I was expecting.
Yeah, I suppose it doesn't quite fit the popular idea of a bikie's lair, but I'll bet your home doesn't have guard towers and steel doors on all the rooms.
No, we're taken.
Well, sit down. Tell me what Rita's been up to now. Would you like a cup of coffee?
No, please, don't let me take your time. Actually, it's not Rita, it's something else. I've left the prison service, as a matter of fact.
For good, or is it just a temporary thing?
Oh, it's a bit early to tell just yet. But I do owe you an apology for not giving you a lift the other day when you broke down by the roadside. My only excuse is that I was under a lot of pressure.
Oh, I wasn't harboring any lifelong grudge over it, and you did send help.
T.S. Eliot.
Oh, yes. Didn't you know every bikie preacher is expected to know the love song of jail from Prufrock by heart? It's the first thing they ask you in the job interviews.
You're sending me up.
Not at all. No, if I'm sending anyone up, it's myself. But not all bikies are out-and-out barbarians, and even the ones that are respect my right to my own lifestyle.
Now you're really making me feel like an intruder.
Why's that?
Well, I've come for some professional advice. I should have arranged to meet you somewhere instead of just barging into your home.
Not at all. I'm pleased to see someone who can appreciate the place. Most of my friends don't share my interest in things cultural.
She hasn't been on one of those things in her entire life.
All she's got to do is hang on.
Hang on to what?
Me. Hop on out.
What did she do with her feet?
She's bringing them with her. You right?
Yes.
Well, don't you let her fall off. Are you all right? I was that worried about you.
Oh, City, I'm fine.
She didn't even fall off.
Well, I reckon she deserves a gold medal. Above and beyond the call of duty, that's what it is. And I, for one, reckon that...
Etty, I loved it. It was fun, really.
Oh, don't be stupid. Of course it wasn't.
Very clever, Mr. Moulton. Is that the way you work on the bikies? Make them so mad they do things they wouldn't normally do?
Did I make you mad enough to reconsider your decision about the weekend?
Yes, you did. I'd love to come.
Oh, now you're going too far.
Gee, I love you, but put a sock in it.
The weekend will be completely harmless.
Full of good works and fresh air. When she gets back Sunday night, she'll look 10 years younger.
Streets, I don't know. One ride in that bloody machine and she slipped her lid. Hey, maybe I should try it. I've seemed to have lost my sparkle lately.
No, hang on, Eddie.
Hang on, nothing. Give us that helmet.
Thanks again for the meal.
Good night. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I just got my signals crossed, that's all. Good night, Anne.
What you did was normal. What wasn't normal was my reaction. There is a reason, and...
Oh, come on. Trust me.
Some time ago, I had a mastectomy.
That's it? Okay. Gee, I'm a little bit angry. But let's talk this thing through. Why did you choose that record? Did you know the conductor's Julian Christoph?
Yes, I like his work.
You can't be serious. I mean, the man's a haemophiliac.
What's that got to do with his music?
Precisely. And you've lost a breast. So what's that got to do with our friendship? Are you expecting something?
No.
Hi, Anne. It's me.
Ben! Ben! I wish you'd told me. I would have met you at the airport.
We wanted to surprise you. We certainly accomplished that.
I don't think you were the only one, somehow.
You were certainly the last people I expected to see. I thought you were planning on staying in England.
Oh, we still are, but there were so many things to tidy up here. It was just as easy to come back for a few weeks.
And I was worried about my favourite mother.
Worried?
Yes, your letters. I knew something was wrong. When you said you'd left the prison, I got a real shock.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it to sound as bad as that.
Look, if you don't mind, I think I'll hit the road. You've got a lot to catch up on.
Yes, we certainly have. It was nice meeting you, Mr. Moulton.
Oh, Dan, please.
That's your bike outside.
Yeah, into bikes.
Used to be once. Looks pretty powerful.
It is, believe me.
You mean you actually rode that thing?
Yes, I was terrified at first, but not anymore.
Come on, Pip. I think that coffee's ready outside. Sure you would like a cup before you go, Dan?
No, thanks again, mate.
Come on.
See you, Zebra.
I am sorry.
I quite understand. Thanks again for a great dinner. And even if it did leave me with an appetite.
See you again tomorrow.
I'll call you in the morning.
It is good to see you. It really is.
Even when I'm a party pooper?
Even then.
Have you known Dan for long?
No, not really. I met him at the prison just before I left.
Ben was right. We did get a bit of a shock when we first walked in.
I noticed. But he really is a very nice man.
And he's a bikie. He's not one of those bastards who ruined my wedding, is he?
No, he isn't. He's a minister who happens to work with bikies and is doing a damn good job of it, too.
Coffee's not quite ready yet. I'm sorry, it's all right if we stay the night, isn't it?
I took it for granted. I'll get the spare room ready.
Nice to see you, Mrs. Reynolds. Welcome home.
Thanks, Roger.
Main gate here. Mrs. Reynolds has arrived.
I know this isn't an easy situation for you.
My appointment was only as acting governor.
You wouldn't be human if you hadn't had some hope that it might be permanent.
There'll be other governorships in other prisons.
And there's always a possibility that I might change my mind again.
That's your prerogative.
It isn't likely to happen, but I'm sure at least one member of the department must have raised it with you as a possibility.
Some people aren't exactly subtle.
No, they're not.
But if it had been raised, I'd have said that you, as governor, have my total support, whatever decisions you make.
Well, I was going to talk to you later, but while we're all here, is there any chance of Rita being able to get Slash's bikie jacket?
What for?
Oh, just sort of a memento, I suppose.
You know what it'd mean to me. Well, I'm sorry, Connors. I really can't allow it. We had enough trouble with the one you arrived in, and I'm sure the department would never allow it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I've never known a place with so many rules.
Come on, let's go. Sorry.
I promised I'd ask.
Oh. I hope I don't have many days like that in a row.
I'm sorry I sounded off at you. Tact was never one of my best subjects. I think you're probably right. I should stay well away from here. I don't want other people's problems coming between us.
I think we can probably overcome any professional disagreements. Don't you? My God, you smashed your bike.
No, the bike's fine. And all this looks a lot worse than it really is.
Got caught up in the fighting. How badly hurt are you?
Relax. Everything's okay, truly. No, come in.
Oh, of course, I'm sorry. You sure you're all right?
Oh, a little stiff and sore. I caught up with the boys in time to have a few drinks with them and calm them down, but Bongo was a different story. He was off his head on booze and coke. I just ended up going a few rounds with him.
You had a fist fight with Bongo?
I know. It's hardly the minister image, is it? But sometimes it's the only way you can get through to kids like Bongo.
Where's your bike?
Well, by the time I was sure they were incapable of further mischief, so was I. I got a king-size hangover to prove it, too. I started walking about 6 and picked up the cab.
Well, I can't argue with the logic in that. You do know my number's in the book.
Yes, I do, and I would have rung if there'd been a phone handy.
You're a worry, Dan Moulton.
Can you cope with that worry? Look, these things are going to happen from time to time, and I can't walk away from them.
I wouldn't ask you to.
Hey, where are you? Come on, Bongo, get off that thing before you hurt someone. What, you bastard! What are you doing with that bomb? Bongo, can't you see she's not here? I'll get out of you!
Any more word on that? Apparently they found some sort of spinal injury. Well, they haven't said what it is, just that it'll mean traction for a while.
Oh, I am sorry.
Don't underestimate me, Miss Ferguson. I know exactly what you're up to. I know you manipulated the situation so the minister had to be brought in, and it's obvious you managed to get to him before he arrived.
Why don't you ask him?
However much you think you could run this prison, and however much you may have convinced him, the fact is you'd never succeed. You haven't got it in you. You'd make life a misery for staff and prisoners alike, and for that reason I am going to fight you all the way.
Well, that's up to you. Of course, the people who count are still on my side. You've only got yourself to blame for that. If you weren't so weak, you'd still
You'd
have been
better
strong.
go now, Miss Ferguson, before you say something you'll regret.
If you think I'm being obstructive just for the sake of it, you're mistaken. You'd have my full cooperation if you ran this place properly.
You'd stop making trouble if I did things the way you want.
I didn't say that.
No, you never say anything, do you?
Oh, now, come on, Governor. Don't
As
you
long
think
as I have the breath to fight, you will never be running this prison. That's all. Now get out.
You totally disregarded my instructions. Now you have the effrontery to sit there and argue with me.
The situation wasn't as black and white as that.
You certainly acted as if it were.
The women involved were questioned, and I acted as I saw fit.
It's your fitness that's being questioned here now. And believe you me, it has become very suspect.
Oh, I'm sorry, Minister. I didn't realize you were still here. Governor, could I possibly...
We'll be finished shortly. I'll look after it then.
No, come in, Miss Ferguson. On the contrary, we have a great deal to clear up here first. Frankly, if it weren't for Miss Ferguson, I wouldn't have a clue about what is happening here.
I'm sure she's quite capable of relaying her version of events.
I hope I don't have to defend myself for carrying out instructions.
Not at all. Your report was quite in order.
Egbert did nothing to warrant cancelling her wedding.
Sir, the women have been at each other's throats lately. Anyone could see that this wedding was just an excuse to stir up more trouble.
I'm in the habit of punishing culprits, not victims.
Fine words. But it's obvious Miss Ferguson had a better grasp of the situation than you did.
Oh, I'm quite sure Mrs. Reynolds thought she was doing the right thing. Obviously, she rushed the wedding through in order to save any backlash against the department.
Personally, I don't think Mrs. Reynolds was considering the department's interest at all.
As governor of this prison, I have discretionary powers.
It's clear to me that you've lost sight of what the department expects of you. I'll expect your letter of resignation on my desk this afternoon. In the meantime, I'd like you to take over the governorship as of now. Will you accept the commission?
Oh, yes, of course, sir. If that's what the department wants.
I don't suppose it ever entered your head what the media might make of this.
I thought it might improve the department's image. God knows it hasn't been good lately.
I don't care what you think, just get rid of them.
I don't have the authority. You'd have to ask the new governor.
What, I have to explain everything that's happened?
There is an alternative.
Such as?
They're here for a human interest story. Let them have it. Endorse the wedding and Egbert's transfer personally.
I won't be blackmailed into changing my mind.
I'm thinking of the women. If you want the department to be seen in a more humane light, then prove you deserve it.
No, perhaps there is some merit in it. It's risky, though. You can't afford any more adverse publicity if they do sniff out the story.
I thought with you leading the interview, it'd be worth the gamble.
Yeah. I thought of that. Come to think of it, this wedding could be just what we need. You'd better handle this. I don't think Miss Ferguson is quite ready for it yet. Oh, in the matter of your resignation, well, we'll forget about that, shall we?
Just what do you think you're doing?
Rid of the rubbish, if you must know. No wonder this place was going to the dogs. Repairing the antisocial, behavioural patterns, staff management and the bureaucracy. And where was little Alice in Wonderland, or weren't we ready for that one?
Leave them where they are, please.
You know, there have been times when I've gone home from this place and wondered why the hell I bother. And the pity of all this is that you won't be here to see how a real prison should be run.
Before you make too big a fool of yourself.
I understand that some of these things are your personal property. I'll have them sent to you.
Who's your informant, Joan? How did you manage all this?
None of your business. And the name is Miss Ferguson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right, Mrs. Pringle. Mrs. Reynolds was just leaving.
Oh, but I thought
I'm afraid you're the one who'll be leaving.
Mrs. Reynolds, the reporter is waiting for your comments on the wedding.
What reporter?
Seems Mr. Dwyer had a sudden change of heart. I want this mess cleaned up now. Oh, and Joan, I want Julie Egbert's transfer papers on my desk by the time I get back.
God, I missed you.
Me too.
You realize you've messed up all my plans. I was going to spend all of Saturday cleaning up your flat.
What flat?
Your flat.
No more. I'm afraid you're looking at a homeless bikie, madam.
Why, what happened?
Well, first up, they said I was going to be in hospital for months, right? Well, I didn't have that sort of money to spend on an empty flat, so...
So what are you going to do?
Well, I wasn't going to mention it until I'd plied you with a few brandies, and I was smoothly going to suggest...
You want to stay here?
Look, would you mind? Just until I find somewhere.
Idiot, of course I don't mind.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. I hate to tell you this, but it's way past my bedtime.
You all right?
Oh, fine. I'm just still keeping hospital hours, that's all.
Sorry, darling, I didn't even think of that. Come on, I'll help you with your leg exercises.
Anne, I've met somebody else.
Somebody else?
Yeah, Helen looked after me in hospital and we grew very close. I'm sorry, I've been trying to tell you all night. I just didn't know how.
Do you love her?
I love you.
Do you love her?
How could I love two people at the
That's
same...
not answering my question. Dan, I wouldn't cause a scene if you want our relationship to finish.
No.
Now, let me say this, please. I know you wouldn't want to hurt me, but I'd rather get the hurt over and done with now.
Darling, you're not listening to me. I'm not just saying words just to make you feel good. I'm saying I love you. Something's happened and I just don't know how to handle it.
Then I'm sorry. I don't know what to do.
Tonight, I asked Helen to marry me.
I think I knew already.
And...
No, please, it's all right.
Be easier now you've made your decision.
The last thing I ever wanted to do was hurt you. Because I do love you.
I know. You're just not in love with me.
Got a minute for an old digger?
Pamela! Oh.
Well, are you going to invite me inside or we bring the chairs out here?
Sorry, come in.
Thought you'd never ask.
I can't believe it. The last time I spoke to you, it must have been 2 years ago. You were up seeing your brother at Warrabilla.
Billawara. Got 4 kids now. 4 more than his big sister.
Oh, so great to see you.
Missed you too. Hey, saw you being interviewed about that telethon. You looked great. If I didn't know any better, I would have said you were cool and sophisticated.
Oh, I'm surprised I looked calm at all. We were in the middle of an escape.
Heard about that too. They're really keeping you busy.
You can say that again, but don't. I'll pour us a drink to celebrate. Well, to what do I owe this unexpected pleasure?
I'm not sure it's going to be a pleasure. I've just come to tell you I'm moving into the flat this afternoon.
I'll miss you.
Yes.
I hate goodbyes.
It's not goodbye. I'd like to see you occasionally.
Maybe. Not for a while, please. And Reynolds. I took them to reception last night. 20, I think. Yes, I'm sure, as a matter of fact. I'm sorry I didn't hear you. Yes, make sure they've got drinks and everything else they want within reason. We don't want anyone being unhappy, do we? I miss him. I'd be lying if I didn't admit that.
I know, love.
I was just getting really used to being half a pair. What's that smell?
Oh, no. The chops. Oh, that bloke's got a lot to answer for.
All right. I want an explanation, and it better be a good one.
The girl attacked an officer, putting her in solitary...
You don't know what I'm talking about. Rita Connors.
Oh, you don't have to worry about her. She isn't our responsibility anymore.
You had no right to send her to Blackmore. Who the hell do you think you are?
Acting governor of this prison. At least I was when the incident occurred.
You knew damn well I'd object. That's why you waited till my back was turned.
I went exactly by the book on this one, and I have enough evidence to prove it. The department has been notified accordingly.
Connors is to come back.
I'll fight you all the way on this one, Reynolds. You're the one pushing for reforms. How do you think your precious bureaucrats would feel if they knew you were soft-peddling on Connors? After all, she is the one who tried to wreck your first project.
That depends on exactly what happens. And I mean to find out.
Well, you go right ahead. I've got nothing to hide. It's all there in my report. Now, if it's all the same to you, I'd like to get back to work.
Rita Connors.
What about her?
Her transfer to Blackmore was a mistake. I want her out of there.
You're joking.
I most certainly am not.
Well, it's been done, and your chief troublemaker's out of your hair.
I put a lot of work into her. She was just beginning to respond.
I've seen no evidence of it. Unless you mean her attempt to murder another inmate and tear the prison shop
I'm
to
not
pieces.
convinced that's what happened.
Well, I have read the reports, and I am satisfied.
How can you talk about reform one moment and condone such a major injustice the next?
Because it is that major injustice, as you call it, that proves we're serious. Let's face it, you are going to have enough trouble making this program work without Connors here to undermine you.
Surely that should be my decision.
A decision has been taken. It's been seen to be taken. It cannot be reversed without a damn good reason.
There's not even any proof that she was raped.
How do you know?
I don't go off half-cocked, Mrs. Reynolds. I've spoken to the nursing sister.
Then you'll also know that we're expecting further tests to be done when the police surgeon gets here.
You're wasting your time. After that incident with Mullins, there'll be cries of rape every time one of your women passes a man, officer or prisoner.
There won't be, because I'm stopping all contact.
Oh, excellent idea. I suggested it myself yesterday.
And I want all your officers to give detailed accounts of their movements last night.
I suppose if I'd been on duty, I'd be on your hit list as well.
At the top.
Would you care to repeat that in front of the Minister?
The Minister knows what I think of you.
There was no rape.
What are you saying?
There was no rape. They tried to set up Craven. We had to make sure that he was in on it. That way he'd be out of the way.
And what were you to get out of this?
He was going to be set up for an early parole.
By whom?
Mrs. Reynolds, of course.
She has obviously been intimidated.
Or tempted. Early parole is an effective lure.
This gets murkier the deeper we get into it. I find it difficult to believe what Wilkinson had to say.
I'm gratified.
Yet I have to give her statement credence.
On what grounds?
Mrs. Reynolds, the only indication that a rape had occurred was Wilkinson's statement. She's now withdrawn that and alleged the attempted compromise of Governor Craven, a compromise in which she says you were involved. Now, that is evidence.
Coerced.
Perhaps. But until we've verified that, I must relieve you of your duties as Governor of Wentworth. Mr. Craven will replace you in the capacity of acting governor.
As long as there are people like Anne Reynolds in responsible positions, there's people like her give us all hope. Unfortunately, the department doesn't always appreciate that. And we're all hoping that Anne Reynolds will be reinstated as governor. Now
Good old Meg. That's one more thing I owe her I'll never be able to repay.
Didn't you hear what she said? You can repay her by getting back into Wentworth.
And whether Dwyer likes it or not, he'll have to reinstate you. It'll be the scandal of the year if he doesn't.
We all know what he thinks about scandals.
Oh, whatever happens. I can't tell you all how much what you've done means to me.
Oh, come on, don't get maudlin about it. We were doing it for ourselves. We want to work for someone human again.
Whatever your opinion of Joan Ferguson, the fact is she is a vicious, self-serving misfit who has caused more problems in Wentworth than all the inmates put together. I will never go back while she is in a position of power, and that, Mr. Dwyer, is non-negotiable.
Now, Mrs. Reynolds, I wish you would try to appreciate
her as deputy or me as governor, not both. No one could deny that you are a competent officer of the old school, but I am achieving reforms in this prison, and they can only succeed if I have the cooperation of all my staff.
Save your speeches. Sick of them and I'm sick of you.
The feeling is mutual.
And I don't even want your job anymore.
Miss Ferguson, this has gone
You
far
know
enough.
that Connors is as guilty as Simpson. She's been nothing but trouble since she got here. Now suddenly she can do no wrong.
I have perfectly valid reasons for my decisions.
Does your barky boyfriend have anything to do with them? Sorry. I should have said your ex-bikey boyfriend.
I think it's the best report on the system I've ever read. It's education with defined goals. It treats rehabilitation as something worthwhile, not just a nightmare that won't go away. But I think it's the best report on the system that nobody else will read.
You're talking about Dwyer?
I think it'll make people wonder why he didn't come up with the ideas
He's had our
himself.
views off the record for long enough. It's time we had someone else's opinion.
Opinion is hardly the word I'd use for anything Mr. Dwyer has to say, and I don't want to see all your hard work end up as a very literate doorstop.
I've had cancer. Not as serious as yours, of course, but for a time I couldn't face it, couldn't bear anyone near me or even talking about it. I had friends who gave me the guts to fight it every inch of the way.
Well, if you reckon it's worth a try, I'll give it a bash. When do we start?
It won't take long to organise. What do you mean in her case?
She has very little time left, Mrs. Reynolds.
But she's strong. She has the will to live.
She certainly has. And sometimes with some cancers that's enough, but with lymphoma...
I feel like a cigarette and I don't even smoke.
You like her, don't you?
Yes, I do. The thing about Rita is she's tough, but she cares about people. She really cares.
It's amazing, you know. I studied your proposals very closely, thought I had the gist of what was lacking, thought a practical tour would iron out any doubts I might have. But that woman got across what words on paper could never do.
Then you'll look into it.
Without a doubt, Mrs. Reynolds, and you'll be dealing with me directly from now on. We'll push it through as quickly as possible.
You're not worried about Mr. Dwyer's toes?
We haven't been for some time, actually. Well, now, I must be going. Thank you for the enlightening afternoon.
I just had
word from the department. Do you think you could take some good news?
From the department?
Well, actually, from the Premier's office. Seems our Mr. Dwyer threatened to resign if Hudson presented my report to the Premier.
Oh, the miserable...
Bastard was the word I used. Felt quite good, too. Think I might use it more often.
Well, what happened?
Well, not only did Hudson ignore the threat and present my report, but...
The Premier
accepted it. We get our reforms, Meg.
And Dwyer?
To quote Hudson, there'll be a painless reshuffle and Dwyer will find himself sitting on the back bench.
Good. Oh, God!
Earning our money, are we, Reynolds? Justifying our existence in this place, eh? Well, you can forget it, Reynolds. You are an amateur. Always have been and you always will be.
So we're heading that way now.
Let's leave them alone.
You sure?
Positive.